got involved with ASS, start doing mentorships, being a mentor for the sheriff department and stuff like that. And as you were saying, like it's about me. Like the challenges in the beginning was from it was me. I was more my own challenge. Like I was getting in my way, and at the time, like the same way I tell people, the energy I put in the streets, I put into my recovery. I started doing volunteer work for the community, which opened up doors for me. Where I sit at right now was the first job I got in human services. Whereas for my volunteer work I was doing, I had somebody write a reference letter for me, and that's kind of opened up the doors for me where I'm at. Then I took a training as a recovery coach. I just finished doing the BASE program with Della Blake for Black addiction counseling education. That's kind of really turned my life around because I started learning more about me and my community. Why we act this way? Why we have black and black crimes? And that's kind of my eyes. When I was in prison, I read a lot of books, but at that time I didn't comprehend what I was reading. I didn't get the perspective of what I was reading. Now today I'm going back reading a book, and one book that really stood out to me is by Reginald Lewis, which was um, "Why the White Guys Have All the Fun." And the title threw me off, but it was a business book, and he was like one of the first black billionaires that we nobody really don't talk about. When I said Lewis, I'm not talking about the football, and that kind of he went through challenges because of his color, and things like that. So for me, my challenge was to overcome that challenge. I just started doing, like I said, doing volunteer work, telling myself not what I know, is who I know. Start putting put myself like today, me and y'all. I started like he was saying about letting people know that I'm in recovery, and just started from there. So became a recovery coach, start talking to people, helping my brothers, let them know, like, yo, don't let that Corey get in the way. You just got to put that energy. Nothing got to happen overnight. It gonna take time. And the same energy I put in the streets, I put in today. Um, just keep moving, man, and just keep educating myself, and just let people know what time it is, and just keep moving on through the struggle. And that's what I do today, man. Um, I don't know what else like today, man. Things is good. Said it, things is good today, and I just set myself around positive people, and that's what I got to do today. Man, got to set myself around winners. And somebody already told me, like, hey, once you put in this movement, keep on going. Integrity is a big thing, so I got to set myself around people. Meet people where they at, but don't leave them there. Um, just keep on moving, and that's about it. If
All
anybody
right.
got any questions,
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of questions, so we're gonna open up the floor. Keyshawn, go for it.
Yeah, so Donnie and Dallas, thank you guys for coming on, man. This is very powerful just in the beginning. So I know our 2 hours here is going to be very powerful, but picking up from what Donnie was saying and also from Dallas, it seems like it comes twofold, threefold, fourfold on the problems. First, what Dallas was saying, you got to get out your own way. One, I'm gonna have that question for you, Dallas. How do you teach people to let them know that you are the problem when you're dealing with the streets, when you're dealing with incarceration? How can you tell young brothers or even adults, like, you are your problem? You are the one that is causing this problem when they think that the world is against them. So that's the first one. And you for you, Dottie, my question for you is, with all this education, everything that you have, and like you said, you saw people in there that are innocent. So do you think that this is a time that we need to do some prison reform? And also, are the programs in place for people that are incarcerated that the sheriff's department has in place, are they good enough for people to walk out and to start a new life? I don't know if you guys heard that.
Yes,
Did you hear it?
yes. I don't know who's going first though.
I would say Dallas. Dallas, I wanted Dallas to answer first, and then Donnie, I'll follow up with that same question just to make sure you remember. So Dallas, how do you teach brothers to see that they like you said, that to recognize that they are the problem? They're the one that are causing the problem, so they can get out their own way, and so they can move forward and not keep following that, and then surrounding yourself around right people.
I tell them, well, the first thing is, like, man, nothing is like, you're not entitled to nothing. Like, I like, yo, everybody looking for handouts. I say, yo, you got to go out there and get it. You know what I mean? And let people know. Like I said, I started off doing volunteer work, you know, and showing people. And when like one of my mentors told me, like, the first time you step on a block, right? You said your boys around you, they just don't let you get on the block. You got to prove to yourself that you can handle the block. You know what I mean? And that's the same thing what I tell brothers today. Like, you gotta prove to people, man. You gotta get out there and show them. Nobody gonna hand you nothing. Go out there and get it. I started off doing volunteer work, and then volunteer work opened up doors for me. I volunteered for this company for 2 years. They just offered me well, I started working for the company for probably almost 2 months now. After 2 years, they offered me a position. You know, it took me 2 years to get it, right? But the pay is great. I can't get mad at it. You know what I mean? So that volunteer work opened up doors for me, and I'm working 2 jobs at the same time. Whereas, like I always tell people, this is the most money I ever made legally. You know what I mean? So I would never go backwards, man. It's about the hard work that you put into it, and show people like, hey, this is the new me. The old me ain't me no more. You know, I don't even like talking about the old me, because there's days I sit back like that. I was really acting like this. I was really doing this. You know what I mean? So I tell brothers, man, just keep striving for it, and don't let nothing. You know what I mean? One door closed, that should give you strength to kick 3, 4 more doors open. You know what I mean? So just keep striving for it, man. And tell yourself that you're not for nothing. You know, you got to go
So
out there.
Dallas, yeah. So Dallas, like you just said, it's a long game. Before I get to that question with Donnie, it's the long game. You just said it took you 2 years to get where you are now. How can you have brothers teach the brothers? Like, I think even if you don't want to talk about, your story is powerful enough to show brothers that you're self-educating, you're pushing yourself, and to have that patience to get that long game, to be safe, that you have to look over your back and going down that wrong road. How can you push that to make sure that our brothers can take care of themselves and our sisters can take care of themselves going that road?
Patience, man. I always tell, like, for me, man, I always say a closed mouth don't get fed. And I always go out, you know what I mean? Like, I take that energy that I had on the other side and put it to this side, and that's the key to it. And I just gotta, I kind of try to, like, because I've been on the other side, so I kind of try to how I say, talk to them to their language, to the whole, you know what I mean? And like that same way that you got the energy there, put it over here and it will work. You know, and one thing I tell brothers like that been locked up before, I said, imagine if you did 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years. Imagine putting up $100 every week, right? And how much money you think you would have, you know what I mean? That on the street. So think about that, because you get locked up, you're gonna lose everything. I don't care what it is, you're gonna lose everything. You know what I mean? So then you get back out. I know the first bit I did, I got out. I was back in 3 months. Then got caught on parole, caught another charge. You know what I mean? Did time, got out, was out for another 18 months, and went back for another long stretch. So it's like you trying to catch up, right, where you left off at. And they always say the worst, the worst is how they, like, the worst is like, you know what I mean? Like, the beginning is as bad as the worst again. Like, you know what I mean? The more and more that you try to catch up to where you lost, they're gonna get worse again. You know? So now, like today, like I said, man, these 3 years I've been home, man, it's like this best years of my life. And I would never go back, man. These best years of my life. Yeah, I still run into, you know what I mean, hiccups and stuff like that, but I got a better solution today. You know, instead of going to get a package, I'm going to find another job. Like they call me in today. You know what I mean? That's money for me. You know what I mean? So, and I go home lovely, man. I go home to a beautiful day, to my wife, my children. Don't have to worry about nothing no more, you know? So, man, life is good today. It is that you just got to set yourself around. Like I tell people today, I got a new playground. You know what I mean? With that new playground come new friends, new things I play with. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, I can still have fun. You know what I mean? Me and my church, we go bowling, play basketball, go lift weights, go out to eat, and things like that. You know, I was doing the same thing now I was doing in the past. I just leave the drugs and alcohol out of it. And everything else that, criminal activity and the violence that come with the other side. So
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is going to be a great conversation, D. We got some great ones here, man. I'm loving this. Thank you, Dallas. And Justin, Donnie. So I just want to kind of get to you now with everything that you've been through in your story. And like you just said, you got all the education in the world, and then that Corey is holding you back. You get everything that's set up for you. So do you think that these programs that are for people that get incarcerated are working? And also, is the system, does there need to be a prison reform system because there's so many people in there that are innocent or that are in there for things that that they can't even afford to pay a bail to get out?
Well, let me get your first question is the system is not designed to work for us. It's designed to work for them, right? The system is designed to keep you in a mindset that's going to keep you returning to the system because that's how they make their money. That's how they keep their jobs. If the system created a mindset for you not to return to prison, then CEOs wouldn't have a job or they would be having layoffs, right? Brothers inside the joint are aware of that, right? And that's why they only take programs for the good time because they know the individuals that are coming in teaching them those programs don't give a damn about them. They're only there for the money because those people, most of them have never sold drugs. They've never carried guns. They've never shot nobody. They've never had to sell their behind for drugs. They've never done any of that. They're there with a degree. They don't look like us, but they're there to tell us how to turn our lives around and to reintegrate back into our community. I don't think so. It never worked. It doesn't work, and it's never going to work, right? Until you have people that look like you, that have overcome the obstacles that have been placed in front of us as far as reintegrating back to the community post-incarceration, it's never going to work because they don't know how to deal with the systemic racism. They don't know how to deal with the Corey issues. They don't, because they never had to deal with it because they're not us. They're not Black and they've never been incarcerated. So how would they know? They're only telling you what they've done some research and studies on out of a book, right?
So Donnie, it seems like if you get incarcerated for anything, if you have anything on your Corey, it seems like it's a life sentence that you got to fight through a life sentence unless you have the right lawyers to get things expunged off of your record. It seems like that's set up for us as Black men that may not have those resources, or Black women that may not have these resources, that have these problems, that may have a drug addiction or may have had gun issues. It seems like even if you're out and you did your time, that is a life sentence.
It is. It is a life sentence. And doing your time has nothing to do with it. That's just what they say, right? It's just like they say, rehabilitate yourself, and then get out and make something of yourself. Well, how are you going to do that when you got a Corey? And that when they put on the application, that's the first thing they ask you. Do you have a Corey? If you tell the truth, they're not going to hire you. If you lie, they're not going to hire you. So it's all a setup, right? They tell you one thing, but then they do another, right? They do that for the public. The public thinks that it works. The public thinks that the Department of Corrections and the systems that surround that as far as reintegration back into the community for ex-felons and ex-incarcerated persons are designed to work. They're not designed to work for us. That's just a public relations campaign for them to say, yes, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing with the money that we're getting as far as taxpayers are concerned. But that's not the reality of what we're facing as people who are trying to transition back to the community. It's a lie. But it's just like what Donald Trump is telling his supporters. People really believe that shit. But it's a lie, right? So, we all know who have gotten out of prison, who go to the AISS program, no disrespect to them, but it don't work. It may work in some semblance, but only works as far as they will allow it to, right? The only reason that I have a job for the state, I'm a state employee and have been for the last 7 years. The only reason why I have a job working for the state is because the governor of Massachusetts appointed me the job. Because I became a public motivational speaker for the Jobs Not Jails campaign. Someone from Boston heard me speak from the Greater Boston Interfaith Organization and said, we want you to represent our interests as far as the governor being elected. So they put me out in Boston in front of all of these people to speak on their interests on stage with Charlie Baker. Charlie Baker heard me speak, and I'm holding up all these degrees, certification, licenses, And I'm telling the audience, yeah, I graduated from Boston University with honors. Yes, I went to UMass. Yes, I went to Colorado State. Yes, I did all of this. But guess what? I got a Class B truck driver's license. I got a real estate license, but I don't have a job. And when I told them that, I got a 20-minute standing ovation. And Charlie Baker stood up and said, you know what? Don't leave here until you talk to me. And we had a meeting. And he sent me to his resource department, and they got me a job working for the state. Other than that, I might still be unemployed today. So while I've been working for the state, I've been learning a lot of how things work. And that's why I just started my own business, the Inner Vision Empowerment Center, to help brothers that are struggling like I did, and sisters. I have all kinds of education, all kinds of certifications, and people were hiring me to help someone else and their people that don't look like us. So what I've done is I've saved my money, and I've worked hard, and I've had this vision on how I could bring those resources to our community and have people that have been through what I've been through, and I look like them because they are more willing to trust an individual who gangbang, who carried guns, who overcame drug addiction, who was homeless. And now you've turned your life around, and you're a responsible member of our society, upstanding citizen, and you've made some accomplishments. Those are the type of individuals that they're going to look up to because we've done it.
Thank you. I know D, if you want to take over this one, man, I'm kind of blown away right now, man. This is amazing. Thank you both for your courage and doing all you can to continue to push for equal rights for us as our men and women are coming out of prison.
Okay, I like to piggyback on that because this what is about. Just you gotta go. You know what I mean. You gotta face your challenges and struggles and get through them. You know what I mean. And that's what I mean. Like in the beginning, I was in my own way because I felt like somebody I deserve something from somebody. You know what I mean. Nobody don't owe me nothing. Nobody. You know what I mean. I tell people, my record is crazy, violent, crazy. I'm not gonna go through the history. You know what I mean? Like I play with them things for real, right? I was working at Bay State West. And somebody said, "Yo, how you working there? You got your record still?" I said, "Nah." They was like, "Oh, why?" I said, "Yo, that's why I tell people, it's not what you know, who you know." And that's like I said, I started volunteering, but then it stopped there. You know what I mean? I have many doors closed. I have a lot more open. It's about the energy I put into what I want. If I want something, I'm gonna go around and get it. Just like when I was in the streets, if I wanted a gun, I found it. If I wanted drugs, I found it. I have 3 or 4. I could go to New York. If somebody didn't have what I was looking for, I go another spot in New York. And I tell people I have more than one liquor store. You know what I mean? And that's the same energy I put into what I have today. One liquor store didn't have it. It was closed early. So I went to another one. You know what I mean? And that's the same energy you got to put into this side. You know what I mean? I have a door closed, 2 or 3 more open, but I don't feel nobody. I don't feel like somebody like I deserve something from somebody. I'm gonna go out there and get it. Same way I went and got drugs. Same way as I went and got what I had to go get. On the other side, I'm gonna get it here, and that's why I tell young brothers, don't feel you entitled to anything from anybody. Go do it yourself, man. Go out there and get it. If you gotta, you know what I mean, work extra harder, do it to prove to them. You know what I mean? Nobody I made my own quarry, right? Like they say, you made your bed, now lay in it. I gotta dig myself out of that hole. I dug that hole. I put myself in that hole. Now I gotta dig myself out of that hole. It might take me a little bit longer. Think about climbing to the hole, you might slip, right? You might, you gotta get back up and keep going again. So I gotta do that same thing. I don't just, you know what I mean? It's like I don't expect nobody to give me nothing. I'm gonna go out there and get it, man. And that's why I tell the young brothers, yo, a door closed, man. Don't get upset. That should make you stronger. Right. That should make you, strengthen you, man. That should strengthen you, and go somewhere else. If you're missing something, go get it. Go find it. You know what I mean? And just keep on moving, man. And when I told people I work at Bay State West, you know what I mean? With a criminal record, they couldn't believe it. And from there, I open up doors. You know what I mean? Like I work with organization called More, which they gave me a platform. Nobody on that platform was talking about gun violence. I started bringing up gun violence. I started saying, yo, listen, my community where I come from, our peoples is killing each other. That's a public health issue. Let's talk about that. That's part of my recovery. Let's talk about that. You know what I mean? Yes, drugs, alcohol is my recovery and gun violence. So that's a public issue in my community. So let's talk about that. And they gave me a platform where I could talk about it. You know what I mean? So, and that's what led me here today. Cause you know what I mean? When I'm talking, they say, "Oh, call D.Moss." This I was like, reach out to D.Moss. Like I said, closed mouth don't get fed. You know what I mean? And that's what I do today, man. Same thing, man. I got that same energy, man. I work 3-4 jobs if I have to. You know what I mean? And today I got 3 paychecks. You know what I mean? So so I tell people, man, you got to doors closed, man. Kick a few open. Let them know you're serious. And if you have to show and prove, man. Because you got to remember, man, I put myself in that position, so I got to get myself. Yeah, this certain thing. That's why I said that book called "Why the White Guys Have All the Fun," and this is back in the '80s and '70s. That's a good book because that book was talking about the challenge he went through as a black man when they was shutting him out for being a black man, and that he was trying to buy companies, they wouldn't let him, but he didn't let that hold him back. I think he was going to Harvard school, and he paid for it himself, but he didn't let that hold him back, which he knew it was a reason because of his skin. Like one business he was about to buy, and they didn't let him buy it, but they sold it to somebody else with less money than he offered him because he was black, but he didn't let that hold him back. So he kept on moving forward when he became one of the first black billionaires in America, but people don't talk about him. You know what I mean? So that's what encouraged me. Like, yo, okay, I had this door closed, but I'm gonna go over here and see what they talking about. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. And like my brother was saying, my brother was saying here, man, start get our own businesses. Stop asking for handouts. Let's have our own, man. When it comes to education, whatever, you know what I mean. We have our own. Just like I was talking about something about NBA. The majority of basketball players is black, but we don't own the teams. You know what I mean. So we say we think that's going on, but then again, like we asking for something, we gotta take it, man. We want education. We gotta build our own schools. We gotta take our education and stop letting other people tell us how to educate our children, how to educate ourselves. That's the only way things are gonna get different. That's how I say. That's my
Dollars. Hold on, I'm gonna go to Rob Jones. I know Rob had a question. Rob, you still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, so yo, Dallas, my interaction, my comment is for Donnie, but I gotta give Dallas some love for his energy, for his fortitude, for his perseverance. You two cats are some real dudes, because a lot of people don't like to talk about, any kind of challenging issues. They're embarrassed by it, or they're trying to hide from it, or they're ashamed by it, or they just don't want to talk about it. But we appreciate you guys coming on this platform and sharing with people, and hoping that somebody is in a similar situation, or maybe considering entering into a situation. And because of you two cats are on here talking about your past and your struggles and your histories and your successes, more importantly, that's going to dissuade somebody from going down the wrong path. Donnie, when I first met you, we instantly connected because we were two big dudes, not like these little dudes that are on the call, but we're two big dudes, and your energy was just positive. And and I sensed it and I felt it, and I was like, I need to know this guy. I need to be around this guy. And I applaud everything that you're doing and that you continue to do, and you're helping Black men and Black women navigate through this process. So that my question for you, Donnie, as you talk more about the system, what can Black men and Black women who are currently in the system, what can they do to kind of navigate through some of the obstacles to kind of get out from the other side like you did?
I always suggest that people not try and recreate the wheel, right? Somebody's already done what you're trying to do. Somebody's already made it to where you're trying to go. You just don't know those people yet. Those are yets for you. For me, like Dallas was saying, inspiration is the key. When you're incarcerated, they beat you down, not just physically, because they do that, but they beat you down emotionally because you've lost everything. You know, you may have lost your girlfriend, your cars, your money, your bank accounts, and your freedom. So you are actually spiritually bankrupt. When you leave prison, people say you should be happy because you're free. Maybe. Because you're free to do what? Where are you going? You got a Corey? You ain't got no driver's license. You probably owe $2,000 or $3,000 just to get that back. You ain't got no money. You ain't got no place to stay. You're lonely. It's a terrible situation to be in, right? And then you get doors slammed in your face everywhere you go. You're embarrassed, especially if you was in the newspaper. Oh, he's out. That's what you hear. As soon as you get out of prison, it's the shot that goes around the town, you know, and people look at you funny. You know, we have self-esteem problems. Some of us go into depression. Some of us had substance abuse problems, and we may have cleaned up while we were in prison, but then we come back out here and we got to face the people, right? For me, I found out that it's more of a spiritual issue for our people. Because when I was in prison, 23 hours a day, lockdown in your cell, because that's where I was, right? Loneliness, spending time in isolation can play tricks on your mind. You can go in prison with all your faculties, and you can come out of prison messed up. You know, it's a psychological warfare that they play on you. So just because you go into prison doesn't mean you're going to come out the same way. And when I was in prison, I found spirituality because I was treated bad in prison. Brothers like me don't do well in prison, right? When they find out that you're an educated brother, you're trying to seek education, and you know you're one of those brothers that may have the light in you, the leadership light, they do everything to try and suppress your progress while you're in prison. Anything that you try and do positive to try and help another inmate, you're on camera, you're on watch, and they will make you suffer for that because they don't want you to spread knowledge.
Donnie.
Yes.
Donnie, question. When you say they, let's be specific. Who is the they so that people can be really clear? Is it other inmates or is it the system itself?
It's both, right?
Okay.
But it's the system that perpetuate the mindset of the other inmates, right? It's just like when I was in prison, there were some white people that came in that wanted to start a mental health program. I said, what a great idea, because I know that a lot of us suffer from mental health issues, whether they're drug related or not. Maybe we kill somebody. Maybe we physically hurt someone. We all have a conscience. And when you spend time in isolation or they put you in a hole, those things that you have done to other people, they come back and they haunt you, right? That's why one of the recommendations that I have for the intervention empowerment program is that we have to make amends to the people that we have harmed. We have to try and make things right, you know, to people that we have hurt, or we cannot progress in life. See, people don't understand that prison imprisons your spirit as well as your physical body and your mind. And when you grow, when you get out of prison and you're trying to grow, we need to grow spiritually, because a lot of times our family relationships have been severed. Our families don't want us to come back because maybe we stole or maybe we were in the paper for something that wasn't good. They don't want us around. You know, our girlfriends have left us. So we feel, you know, like I said, isolated, even though we're around. Okay. So my whole thing in saying what I'm saying is that I believe the essence of this whole problem is a spiritual one. because we're concentrating so much on getting a job. We're concentrating so much on recovering from drugs or those things that we may have done. But the damage that we have done to ourselves spiritually, in my opinion, is what held me back and was holding back most of the people that I know that were in the same boat as me. Because we don't acknowledge the spiritual, we don't address it. When you're suffering from a mood or mind-altering drug, they call it a spiritual disease. Why? Because when you're out there in the streets and you're going any means to get that drug, to get that gun, like Dallas was saying, to go to that next place, that's spiritual. It's not mental. The reason why I couldn't stop using drugs, the reason why I couldn't stop creating havoc in my community is because I was afflicted with a spiritual condition that I didn't understand. I had a lack of morality. I had a lack of ethics. I had a lack of values. Those are the things that drugs rob from you. Those are the things that prison rob from you. That's why you turn into an animalistic type of behavior you start to display. You start to regress, right? So my statement that I want to make here on the show today is that Black people are a spiritual people. Okay? We come from Mother Earth. We are the original people. And God, or whatever you want to believe, is your creator, because you can't get something out of nothing. Something had to create all this, including us. If you believe that he created each and every one of us a purpose and a spirit. And until you go within and find that purpose at that spiritual level, it doesn't matter what kind of job you get when you get out. It doesn't matter what you do when you get out. You're still not going to be happy because we're searching for the wrong things, which are exterior, when we should be going on the interior and finding ourselves our purpose. And that's when you will find happiness, growth, and all those other things that we're talking about will follow.
Give it to her.
Okay. Terrence, you have a question?
Yes. My mind kind of just went back to what was being said earlier about what happens when you get out, and how there's such a lack of opportunity, and how a lack of opportunity is what keeps this cycle of recidivism going. And it brought up an idea that that I experienced when I was in Atlanta. There was this program called Shift Gig, and Shift Gig offered like everybody knew that when that those with a record had a harder time getting employment opportunities, because even though they'll say that these, like, just like I think it was Donnie that said there are these programs that they say are here to help those with a record, but it's really just for dress up, and it's not really as effective as people think that they are. But Shift Gig created like an affirmative action kind of system where they were incentivizing certain jobs if they were to hire those with a record. Same in the same regard as how Harvard gets incentivized for enrolling more and more minorities. So my question being, and this could be to Donnie, Dallas, anybody, do you think if we had more programs like that incentivize certain jobs to give opportunities to those with a background record, then that would aid the issue of those with the record getting employment after incarceration?
Okay. Anybody want to take? And before you answer that question, I got to introduce my man Joe Dumpson. Joe, how you doing, sir?
How you doing? DA Dallas, what's up, bro?
What's good, my brother?
What's going on,
good,
bro?
my brother?
All right.
Yeah, baby, I'm here.
All right. So Joe's another cat I like to partner with on programs. We got some things coming up. Also dealing with after incarceration and working with cats on the streets where they are. So at some point, I want to address. Got me saying now. I want you guys to address Terrence's question. So whoever wants to go first, Joe, jump in wherever. Dallas, Donnie.
I used to have a job with I work with after incarceration, because the only people who would give me a job once I got my degree well, I couldn't even do my internship, so I may not have even gotten a degree if it wasn't for the sheriff's department and DYS. Because everyone else, it sort of was. They were
Mhm.
like, okay, that's good, you're in school, but so what? And so part of my job when I got hired through the Phoenix House. They had a partnership with the sheriff's department down at Daily Reporting. And so I gave groups down there, but part of my job was calling up to answer his question specifically was to do cold calls and call up businesses and let them know it's like a bond. So like businesses could get like I believe it was like $1,000. There was some incentive or tax break for hiring people with a record. Because most people, for instance, my little brother, Dallas knows my little brother too. Um, when he came home after doing his 18 years, he did 14, he did 5. He did 14 first, and he came home and put in 98 job applications. And after 98 job applications, after 98 no's, we know how to make money. Either we're gonna go and get it or we're going to take it. And so what happens is, and I know it's even tougher without the degree, because I know with the degree, I've had people smile in my face and give me 2 and 3 interviews on the same day. Joe, can you wait here? My boss will be here. So I do the first interview, I do the second interview. One time I did the third interview, and I went all the way to HR. Joe, can you stay? Can you go to HR? Went to HR. She loved me until she queried me. And she called me back in. It wasn't laughs, it wasn't jokes, it wasn't rubbing my shoulder. It was she handed me my Corey, and she handed me a like a notebook, and she said, write down a paragraph for each time you were arrested and explain it. And I looked at her and said, excuse me? And she had me write a paragraph for every instant, for every entrance on my Corey, and still didn't hire me after doing 3 interviews on the spot and then going to HR. And so sort of my, what drives me in this, because I understand how hard it is. I got a master's degree. And you'll still have people sort of go, like I was at a job one time for 10 years. They gave me a promotion and it was a new executive director and they re-queried me and removed the promotion for a job that I was already doing, And so, listen to Dallas, and listen to the brother Donnie. I don't know you, Donnie, but yo, you a powerful brother, and just hearing Dallas speak and just sort of reminiscing on sort of the struggles that we have to go through. And like Donnie said, and like Dallas both said, the strength that we have to dig into. Because the sheriff himself hired me to do groups inside, and I used to have groups as big as the ones that were mandatory because I look like them, because they knew me, because they recognized me from the street or they knew my name. And the thing was, what I told people was this inner strength the same strength we had on the other side of the laws, the same strength we have to tap into here. Because we didn't take no for an answer there, but here we get discouraged, we get embarrassed, we give up because it's hard to sort of have to relive who you were, But what I used to teach the people in daily reporting was I said, you know what? I said, some people discriminate against you because of who you were. I said, some people just don't want to hire a criminal. And the people who don't want me because of who I was, then I don't want you. I don't want to work for you either. But the people who just don't want criminal, because none of us on this panel, including Donnie or Dallas, will want to hire a criminal. I don't want you in my house if you steal, right or wrong. And so therefore, so what I learned was, and what I taught the other people coming home was, I say, yo, if they just don't want to hire someone with a criminal history, you let them know how different you are from who you were. That's who I was. This is who I am. And since I've been home, and you look at Donnie, you look at Dallas, this is what I've done since I've been here. So now I can tell you, yo, this is the last time I was in trouble. You don't see any more entrances on my Corey. I went to school. I got a master's degree. I've done this program. I've done that program. And what I do is I sell myself. I'm a hustler. I've been taking care of myself since I was 14. So now what I'm selling is myself. And so so I hope I answered your question about the incentives for businesses, but that was also just a little of what I was thinking and listening to you, brothers.
There's something I'm going to say about all this, and this may seem roundabout, but when I think about everything we've discussed leading up to this point, up to this very conversation we're having right now. All of it is interrelated. We've talked about, Donnie's talked about spirituality. We've talked about that. We've talked, both Donnie and Dallas are talking about, trying to get out in the workforce. We've talked about economic empowerment for our community. We've talked about the building jobs. We've talked about the different things. We've talked about different industries. We've talked about education. And I think what I see more than anything else out of this is that the only reform we can really expect to have from our community for our community has to come from our community. We have to be the people that sit there and say that if our community is going to prison more from a statistical standpoint, more than any other community, and if we're seeing these problems within our community, and we're seeing these problems with our family members, our loved ones, people that we know, our neighbors, people that we've just used to seeing on the street, then we have to ask ourselves the question, what are we willing to do to make sure that when our brothers and sisters get out, if, as the brother was just saying, this is who you were. Now, you're telling me this is who you are today. What are we all willing to do to make sure that this is who they are today has the chance to get out there, shine, work, and do what they need to do? Now, I'm not saying no one's not doing that, but what I'm saying is that everything we've talked about really leads up to the issue of how do we make sure that, as Dee would say, we're controlling our narrative, and making sure that our narrative doesn't reflect on what someone else says that we are, or what we or that our narrative isn't based off of what someone wants to judge us because of what a Corey check comes back and says. So we have to be willing to make all the steps necessary, both in our personal lives, our professional lives. If you're the boss on the job and you doing a Corey check and this person has a record, if your gut reaction is, nah, man, this person's got a record, I can't hire them, you need to check yourself. And you need to ask yourself, is it the record that's disturbing you, or is it the qualifications of the person sitting before you? Because that's the record. I mean, someone can look at your academic record and see an F on your record. If they judge you based on that or one F, would you be happy with that? No, you wouldn't be. So why would you do the same thing to someone who may have a criminal record? Yeah, I also understand the point. If someone's stealing, nobody wants to hire a criminal. But it's also, is that the person that's sitting before you today? Or is that the person that they was yesterday? I have a lot of thoughts when it comes to rehabilitation versus, what actually happens, because Donnie, I think you said it right. You said, this is what they want you to know, what they want you to see versus what actually happens. And so it just begs the question. And I mean, I guess you could say I have part of an answer and part of the question. It begs the question, what can we do who have never been in prison, but want to help with our brothers and sisters in prison to make it possible that they can come back out, they can work, they can do the things that they need to do and not be judged by a past that's no longer the picture of who they are in their present.
Now, Hanif, I just want to answer that for you on this point before I turn it back over. Where I'm the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club, it is so different because the Corey background check that we go through is from the state, from our EEC, is our funding place, and the Corey system is so strict, it's stronger than what we have to deal with from teachers. We gotta Corey anybody else that comes in our building, and they take the power out of our hands to make a decision on who we want to hire. So this is the step that they've taken. Before it was, if they have something that comes back out of Corey, we would have to sit down with that person. But if we have the relationship, like let's say Dallas, me and him, I've known he volunteered for my club for 2 years. I just take his case right now. He volunteered for my club for 2 years. I got a position that's opening up that I want him to have because I know I can trust him. I know that's not his past. We've had these conversations. He's built a bond, and I know he's going to be good for my kids in my community. He puts that Corey in. It goes to Boston, and they tell me right on the spot. They don't even give me an opportunity to defend him or even write a letter. They say, nope, he is not allowed to work in your system. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So where do we take that from there? That's my question. Do I go right to the governor? Do I go to the mayor? Where do I take it when like you said, I'm on a hustle on my own. I'm in my community. I'm doing everything I can. I'm taking control of my life. For people that are like a Dallas or Donnie or Dumpson that comes in is like, yo, this is what I have. This is what I've done. But this Corey is my block. So it's almost like I'm making you go back to the lifestyle that you have because I'm going to crush anything that you have, anything that you're trying to do. So with that, Hanif, that's the same thing. I want to ask that same question. Where do we go when the power is taken out of our hands to advance people in our own community?
For me, like is we how we let me see, like we got to stop settling for less, right? Because like when we watch TV, right, we see the black man. The average black man role is a drug dealer, basketball player. The females, you know what I mean. So it's like every role we take, we settling for less. You know what I mean? And I know like that's what I looked up to. And that's what I looked up to. And when I was in the streets, I thought I was doing better than being in the streets. I put myself so much in a black hole. I thought this was all I was worth until we start showing that the black man, if you look in school, right? Our history goes back to slavery. Our education go back to slavery. So as I was growing up, I had people straight tell me you better off than when you was living in Africa. When I don't know nothing about Africa, but that's the education that's what they perceive when it comes to our education. Our history only go back far as Africa and being slaves. So when we look at TV, right, and I learned this, and that's why I'm gonna big up Della Blake because her base program was teaching me all of this. Because we talk about post traumatic slave syndrome, right? So as I'm growing up, I'm looking at this. This is all I'm worth. If I can't shoot a basketball, I'm gonna go sell drugs because this is all I see. You know what I mean? And that's what I turned out to be, a drug dealer, right? And you know, we're selling drugs, come up with other things, picking up guns, protecting what's yours. And and like I said, man, we gotta stop asking for handouts, man. We gotta take what's ours. Like somebody mentioned, right? Our community. It's all about our community. This is our community. So if we want this if we want something in our community, we gotta go on and take it and stop giving our powers to other people. To overlook how we should raise our children, how we should raise what's in our community. You know what I mean? That's how I see it, man. And like I said, that's why I don't have no problem telling people I'm in recovery. I don't have no problem saying that because I want people to understand where I come from, right? This is where I'm at today. And I want other brothers to know, sisters too, that we can overcome that, man. We could get out of that life, man. We can get out of that jungle and live peacefully. I've been there, man. You know what I mean? I just got out of jail in 2017 and I was going back in the chef department. I was going back inside the jail. Literally, I was walking around the jail, knocking on people's cell doors. You waking up out of their bunk. I would never thought I would do that. I would never thought, you know what I mean? I would do something like that. But I had to change my perspective as I see myself. And that's the thing. I had to look at myself and say, I'm better than a drug dealer. I'm better than this. I could become, you know what I mean? I had an education in accounting. You know what I mean? I had a degree in accounting, but I took the degree in accounting to do the wrong things with it. Because I learned about laundering money and stuff like that, watching other people. So you know what I mean? So I had to look at myself like, am I better than this? So that's where we have to educate our young people. You better than what you is today, man. And we have to stop that. And that's the only way is, like you said, to step out there, let them know, like I came from the streets. This is what I'm doing today. When my brother's coming home, I'll be telling them, man, yo, listen, man, you can get in this field. Yeah, it's not a lot of money, but you got to start somewhere. And that's another thing. We want instant gratification. We want it right then and there. If we resume it as blank, right? How you gonna get a job starting at $30, $40 an hour? We got to start somewhere. We got to start somewhere. Right. You know what I mean? The first job I got was changing oil. You know what I mean? Next thing I know, within a year, I was in pre-release. Within a year, I'm on the top. They giving me the key to close it down. It's all about your perspective, how you see yourself. You know what I mean? Positive affirmation is the key, like he's saying, the spirituality. So if I'm greater than where I'm at today, I'm gonna be better today than what I was yesterday. And that's what it's about, growth, man. And that's what we got to educate our young youth about. We better than that. We better.
So Minnie, I know, Minnie, you going off on the Facebook, so I know you got something to say. So her comments are strong.
So I got a lot to say actually. I've been taking notes, so I'm trying to order. Forgive me if I jump all over the place, but a lot of people will say it's not what you know is who you know, and I like to add that it's not who you know, it's who knows you. You know what I mean? Because we all know who President Obama is, but if President Obama knows you, and that's how it makes a difference in your life. So it may not seem worth it Like take Donnie, for example. He didn't want to get out there and tell his story, but when he did, he started getting in front of people, opportunities started opening themselves up for him. And I wish that those type of experiences were less individual and more systemic. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people will point out little successes, not to undermine those successes, but they'll point out individual successes. And they'll say, you got Obama, you got Oprah, you got all that. So if they can do it, you can do it. But those are just individual stories. That's not most of our realities. That's because there hasn't been any systemic change. That's why I'm always wary of leaders who, choose poster children and say, hey, I did that for you guys. So that you can look at that individual story and be lulled into a false sense of security when there's nothing systemic being done. I also want to note that it's good to take a skills inventory. You know what I mean? Because you can say you was a hustler, you can say you was a D-boy or whatever, but it doesn't translate as well as, listen, I know how to work a distribution channel. I know how to develop and maintain a supply chain, customer relationship management system, and learning those things and understanding that you weren't just that. You know what I'm saying? You were a boss. You ran your own business. And trust and believe, there are legal products out there that move like work. Okay? They move like work. You just gotta find it and make it do what it do. And there's a lot of discrimination that happens that's completely legal because the criteria for proving discrimination is impossible. You have to damn near be a mind reader because ain't nobody telling you, I don't want to do this because you're a felon. I don't want to do this because you're black or if you're in a particular class. So we definitely have to change everything. We're being attacked on all fronts. We got to counterattack on all fronts. Politically, spiritually, like Brother Donnie said, we got to do the work on ourselves and our community. And another thing, it wasn't Donnie who said it was Dallas who said it, is that we are free. It's like I constantly think of what Harriet Tubman said, and she said, I freed 1,000 slaves and I would have freed 1,000 more if only they knew that there were slaves. We are out here asking for sovereignty. And that is the most asinine thing ever. I'm sorry. You don't ask to be sovereign. You got to ask for sovereignty. All you got to do is be sovereign and be free. And we have to make it so that we have to build this infrastructure so that we don't have to go outside of ourselves and outside of our community for opportunities. We're asking them for opportunities. The same people who structured this whole system to deny us opportunities. We only subject ourselves to this shit. We do. And we don't have to. All we have to do is stop. We don't have to ask for anything. We don't have to ask people to change the education system, which is a constant reinforcement of inferiority. I remember last Black History Month, I said, girl, if you come home with another fun fact about slaves, I know something. It's just, I don't even like the term slavery. When I joined the elementary school system and they start talking about slaves, I'm like, you mean people? You mean humans? You mean slave owners? You mean human traffickers? We have to change the way that we talk to ourselves. Like D.Moss has been perpetuated through this whole system. We have to control the narrative. And they control the narrative and we allow it to happen. There was a comment made about the laws and stuff. We got to get it. If we're going to fight politically in order to change the system, which I don't necessarily think is possible, but if we're going to do that, we got to do it together. One band, one sound. Now, I mean, don't talk to me about voting unless we're going to do it in blocks. Like Stokely Carmichael said, we got to vote in blocks. The only way a vote is not enough. It's not enough leverage. Politics is a rich man's game. If we don't pool our funds and say, hey, you'll get our vote and you'll get our money if you do X, Y, and Z, it's not going to work. Everybody doing this and everybody doing that. Nobody wants to compromise. Compromise is not just win-win, it's lose-lose. That's like, okay, if everybody say they want to back this candidate and I don't, oh, well, I got to put the needs of the people before my own. And we got to move in unison or everything we do is futile. And I think that's it, y'all.
That's my girl.
I want to pick up what something he just said, though.
Go ahead, Henry. We're going to give it to you.
I want to pick up when she was talking about with these candidates in politics. I mean, I can't stand the fact that there are still some people, even now with this coming election, that are putting their hopes in the Democratic Party. I don't put my hopes in either one of them because both of them they're the opposite side of the same
Facts.
coin, doing the same thing, and it's not to help any of us. So when we talk about how do we want elected, what are we going to do with elected officials? How are we going to do things to create agendas for people running for office? Similar to what Minnie was saying. We have to be willing to pull together, and who cares what part? No. Let's not even think about which one of those two parties are going to be in. We have to put our own candidates up either as independents or as our own political party. You want to talk about this being a rich man's game in politics? Well, Rob, remind us again of what the figure is of black wealth in this country, and look at how much money we have. And if we put that money together to putting up our own candidates to go into office, we have a chance to do something in the political system. Notice I said a chance, not a guarantee. Just like these brothers that are coming out, they had to change their ideals of how they saw themselves, and versus what people said that they were, and realize that same energy they were using when they was doing things they weren't supposed to be doing is that same energy they can use to get to where they want to go. Well, if we want to talk about political change, that same energy we have when we talk about justice for this next black man that got shot, justice for this black man that got shot, justice for this black woman that got shot. We need to use that same energy to organize around a candidate who has a voice, and not just organize our time and our efforts and putting up signs in our yards and standing on the corner and coming to a rally, but organizing with our dollars and saying, this is who is representative of what we believe. This is who is going to carry our voice in this circle. And we need to be concerned about that at every level of government. It's not just the national level of government, more concerned about it at the local level of government than anything else. So if we're going to talk about the politics and the political end of this, we can't talk about this in terms of there being a reform unless we're willing to actually do something and not even look at the
Facts.
Democrat or the Republican Party to do it with.
Facts. That's a fact.
Yes, facts.
That's a fact.
All right,
Because
here we
what
go.
happened? Okay, here you go, B.
No, who's up? Go for it.
That was Joe. Because I was
Okay,
just
Joe,
saying,
go for
just
it.
listening.
You're on.
Just listening to everyone, right? Because what happens is, and we really are, and it is due to, like Dallas said, what he got from Miss Blake. It really is due to slavery. We really are the only culture who doesn't. Because even like I was thinking walking the kids to school, because I used to walk a school bus. And I said, wow, like we are the only community that terrorizes our community. We are the only community that doesn't back each other. Like the brother said, we're not gonna give each other money. We're not gonna, like, there's always, and it's not even due to any fault of our own. But what we really need to do as far as the political agenda, as far as business and being able to have things that we can employ, because that's my next step. My next step is, I own a gym now, but my next step is we need to create something so we can hire these people that we know and the ones that we don't know who are coming home. We need to put up our own candidates, not like the brother said, not depending on either one of these parties that are, but they used to be one party, two sides of one coin. Because what happens is, and we can see it from this election right now, there are people who are pandering for our vote, and they're searching for our vote like they do every 4 years, and then they forget about us until it's time to vote again. But they'll kneel and they'll do all this other stuff, and they don't care about us at all. And so who's gonna speak up for you like you? No one. And so that is what we need to do. And we need to be willing to come together as a collective to say, this is my community, and I'm going to stand for it against people who look like me, just like I will against people who don't look like me. And so with that being said, it's like for instance, when I did the walking school bus, the only guys I got to come, I didn't have a kid that went to that school, but I heard that there was little kids as young as was only in our community because we don't vote or we don't have any political power in our community. We have kids as young as 5 years old who have to walk a mile to school. So they walking up Bay Street both ways to Rebecca Johnson. I didn't have a kid that went to that school. But as a black man, I said, well, then I'm going to step in and I'm going to walk them to school. Right there, the walking school bus was no men. The only men the men who I could get all had Corys. So guess what? They weren't allowed to do it. So now no one else within the community stepped forward. And then what I started noticing walking these kids to and from school was I was like, yo, like we are being held captive, not even just by somebody who doesn't look like us. Drugs are sold in front of this old lady house and she's scared to come outside. And so what happens is it's almost like we got to clean up our house. Just like I don't want to beg anybody to give me anything, I also want to beg you to fix anything in my house. Like we got it. We are powerful people. Like the brother said, we are the first civilization. And so what it takes, I believe, is that for the people who are on, like even on this panel, this is a perfect start. If each one tells 24 people that we can trust and believe in to stand strong, we already beginning to put together an army. And so now, boom, within that army, now we hand out jobs. You good at this, Dallas? Okay, boom. These your soldiers. This way we're gonna handle this financial, fiscal responsibilities, fiscal literacy, financial literacy. You do this, D. Okay, boom. You're gonna take these groups, and then we begin to build an infrastructure just like they had in Black Wall Street that they ended up destroying. I don't think they're dropping bombs today, but who knows? But who cares if they drop a bomb on us? But if we begin to create what we have and our resources and doing voting drives and pooling our resources, then will become a power, not just pandering for a vote, but an actual power that they have to listen to, that they have to follow. Because guess what? If we got you in office and you don't do it, you wait to 4 years. You won't have these 20,000 votes that we gave you this time, like the sister said. And that's where the real power is.
All right. I want to go back to Donnie. Can you hear me? Now, you said when Governor Baker heard you, you were speaking. You were doing a lot of work in terms of legislative lobbying for brothers and sisters coming out of lockup, and for folks deal with that post incarceration life. Can you talk about some of the legislative work that you've done over the last couple of years? I don't think a lot of people understand the amount of work you've done in terms of going back and forth to Boston. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, when I got out of prison, I got arrested 7 more times for driving without a license. I had some money put away that was taken from me, so I had nothing. So in order for me, I was on parole, and I had to pay my parole fees, but I didn't have any money. If I didn't pay my parole fees, they were going to violate. So I had to get a job. How am I going to get a job without a driver's license? How am I going to get my driver's license without a job because I had fines to pay?
Yep.
It was a ridiculous catch-22. So I drove anyway, and I got pulled over, and I went to jail, and I got out. Finally, my employer asked me, why don't you have a driver's license? And I told them. They lent me the money to pay all my court fees to get my driver's license back. So I met a guy named Steve O'Neill. He was the executive director of Jobs Not Jails out of Worcester. I joined their organization as a volunteer, and we started doing basically drives for ex-offenders coming out of prison, trying to educate the populace on what's really going on. Western Massachusetts didn't really catch on too much to that. It was mostly done in Worcester. I ended up in front of senators and politicians there in Boston, and basically had a chance to tell them my story on what happened to me and the unfeasibility of having individuals driving around without a license because they can't afford their driver's license fees. 90% of them with drug offenses who didn't get caught driving. They didn't even have, some of them didn't even have a driver's license in the first place, but their driver's license was suspended because of a drug offense. What sense did that make, right? So we lobbied on legislation to change that. Along with that, I had a chance to tell the senators and the politicians up there about the problems with the Corey laws. And I had a chance to tell them the story on how I was able to get a job, even though I had a couple of degrees, one from Boston University, Class B commercial truck driver's license, real estate license, all of these accomplishments, right? But I couldn't get a job. So the Corey laws in Massachusetts were basically revamped partially based upon my story, because I was up there with all of these politicians, Buddy Williams, Carlos Gonzalez, the ACLU, Prison Legal Services. These are all individuals that used me as a mouthpiece to speak on behalf of their organizations and their organization's agenda because I'm an articulate speaker. I don't know it all.
Well,
I just say what they want me to say based upon the truth of the matter. And those things were changed based upon some of the things that we did.
People are asking, what can we do to help our brothers and sisters coming out of lockup? How can we engage? With the amount of energy that we focus on the police departments, and we have to continue to focus information on policing. I get that. I think a lot of times people sleep on the power of the legislature in terms of ensuring that these laws get changed. As Keyshawn says, the family said, I can't even hire brothers because of a Corey. A lot of that stuff can be changed through the legislature. We got Congressman Neal coming back and forth. He just won his primary, but no one's ever asked him about legislation that will impact changing Corey laws. So I think, and I ask you because I admire the work that you've done in terms of making sure that your voice are heard along with all the other brothers and sisters. The other thing is people have to go back and look at where we came from. Let's talk about the black codes and how restrictive the laws were in terms of designing limitations on the freedom of black folks and to ensure their availability as cheap labor after slavery was abolished after the Civil War. We got my man Max Parthas down. I think he's in either South Carolina or Virginia. He calls himself a modern day abolitionist because what we're basically talking about is free-form slavery, government slavery. We have folks doing Fed time getting shipped all over the country performing free labor. When people talk about penal jobs, that's what we're talking about. So we really have to focus on changing legislation. Another thing, the amount of energy that we put into the police departments and local politicians, we also have to go after the court systems because the court systems have to change. There's so many areas that we need to be tackling at this point, and we don't. We'd rather judge our brothers and sisters instead of looking at the system that holds us all hostage. I don't know about anybody else who's never been to jail. I've been to, lock up, been in handcuffs, never did time. My life is a reflection of yours. One decision away from who each and every one of you guys were. One wrong turn, we all could have been locked up. You dig where I'm coming from? And that's the goal. The bottom line is once they do that, our vote, our dollars, displaced tax base, the whole thing is all tied in. So if we're going to control our narrative, I think folks will have to do a better job of educating themselves on what this narrative is. Because we have to change our stories. We have to make sure that our voices are heard. We can't alienate any particular segment of our population. And we have to stop compartmentalizing our community. I had a conversation with Brother Donnie the other day. We talked about how we have women over here, brothers over there, kids in the back. And then we talk about brothers who have gone to jail and we treat them as if they don't exist. We talk about brothers in the church. We talk as if this isn't just one family. And at the end of the day, we're talking about black families. Fuck everybody else. We talking black families. So when these brothers come home, if they need jobs at a family center, the bottom line is, I know with the nonprofit I have, people are donating dollars on a regular basis. And if it wasn't for regular folks who look just like y'all, Afro Renaissance, Rob, tell me I'm lying, Afro Renaissance wouldn't exist. So my thing is to ensure that Keyshawn can open his doors for these brothers, we have to make sure that we go into our pockets and treat it like a bill. If it's $100 a month, to make sure those monies are going back so that he will have discretionary dollars to use. As long as we're relying on state and federal dollars, man, that's like relying on master to feed us right before we take off running. We can't do that. So we have to become fiscally independent, which means that the free money that we have, that spare change, we have to utilize it effectively. As Joe says, if we can get 24 people in the circle to stand strong, put their dollars together, we can do this. But again, I'm talking a lot, but I'm just saying we have to go back and understand that this penal system they put in place was put in place whether or not we ever got high, whether or not we ever committed a crime. And it's going to be there when our grandchildren are being raised. So we have to start fighting this now. We have, decisions to make. And I say it all the time. We have to draw a line in the sand. The bottom line is we live in America and people never want to talk about seceding. And people never want to talk about walking away from this damn country. There are obstacles and traps set up to get us at every stop that we make. So for Dallas, for Donnie, for Joe, listen, man, I think we have to make sure that we bring you brothers back on a regular basis, not just this show, but other shows, to make sure that your voices are heard. This story is our story. And, the only way we're going to change this shit is to make sure that everybody understands that these brothers getting out have more to offer than some of us who have never gone behind that wall. For anybody behind that wall that has access to a computer and you can watch the show, please understand that while you're there, do your homework, because we need you when you get back. And we have to spread that word. Tell brothers to use that prison time like it's a college campus, like you brothers have done. So I know I'm talking a lot.
Yeah.
But I have a question.
I want to say,
Somebody had asked a question on one of the other threads. They asked, if you can't find a job, how difficult is it to create a job and to become an employer as opposed to looking for an employer to hire you with your query? That was a question.
Okay.
I think that's the best way to go. Don't ask anybody for anything. There is so much you can accomplish behind a fictitious entity. I'm telling you, there's just so much. Like I was just writing down that to ask Keyshawn, like, what if you operate through an LLC or entity? Is it easier to get hired that way? For example, not necessarily hire a convicted felon to be a gardener, but someone who works for LLC. And things get more lax that way, even with the school system. I know that they have people who contract with the school system who have the freedom to hire and fire who they want to, and be more lackadaisical about certain requirements like passing a background check and those things. So look into how a legal or fictitious entity can help you move around the system a little bit, even with credit too, is a thought.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah. I just want to. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I just wanted to answer on one of the panelists' questions from earlier. I don't think it was addressed, and he asked a question about how can we incentivize, how can companies incentivize employment, for not just ex-offenders but for anyone. Yeah. And my answer is particularly for the ex-offender. The problem with the incentivization is that a lot of brothers coming out of the joint, they're not ready, right? Just because you incentivize a job doesn't mean that individual is ready to be accountable and responsible. And you may qualify for that incentive, but that doesn't mean that you're ready to get up to go to work every day and perform at a high level that job is requiring you to. So I think it's a good idea to incentivize jobs or employment, but I think it needs to have a pre-job placement services for individuals coming out of the joint, something that is provided by ex-felons. We know what they're going to face. We know what face they need to put on for that employer. We know how you need to talk, how you need to walk, what you need to say, how you need to perform, because we've already done it. We know what expectations you're going to face and how to help you to be successful when you get that incentivized job. Because if they get that incentivized job and they fail, then how does that help anyone? They were never ready in the first place. So these individuals that are coming out, male and female, that's why a place like the Intervision Empowerment Center, that's why the Boys and Girls Club can be utilized to help individuals get skill ready, to get ethic ready, to get moral ready, to get values ready, because you have to have ethics, morals, values to succeed in the world of work, not just the ability to do the job. And the other thing is that we were talking about the other brother came in and he was talking about doing business with each other. We don't trust each other. That's why we don't do business with each other. We have an image problem, right? We have an image problem that has been created by white society for us to not do business with each other because we're not deemed as trustworthy, right? It's something that's subliminal and subconscious. We have to, like Daryl said, rewrite the narrative, right? And let people know that you can trust me. I will do a good job. My services are legitimate, right? Once we have enough individuals that can display that in our community, it will feed upon itself and replicate. One of the things that the Intervision Empowerment Center, what I want to do with area businesses, go to each and every one of these area businesses. Who is the owner? How long have you been in business? What have you given back to the community? Oh, you've been in business for 10 years? You've been taking people's money for 10 years and you haven't given anything back? We got a problem with that. And we're going to give them an opportunity to give back. And if you choose not to give back, we're going to put you on Front Street. So the bottom line is that those dollars from those business owners that don't look like us are all leaving this community. So we need to provide, some type of incentive for them to put a portion of their earnings from our community back into the systems in our community so we can do better, amongst the people that you're taking the money from. Those are some of the things that I believe we should be implementing in our community.
Mac, I know you had something you wanted to say, and I know Hanifa, we had something else you want to follow up on too.
Yeah, so like for those brothers and sisters who are getting out, and you said like they're not, the incentivized program wouldn't work because they're just not ready for the workforce. Being someone who's worked in nonprofit almost all my life, I've written grants and whatnot, and I've seeked out opportunities, to build centers and all the time. How likely do you think it would, or how possible do you think it is for us to create a center that provides that we're saying that these brothers and sisters need, like a center that provides those vocational skills and workplace workplace etiquette, helping them get opportunities, possibly providing housing. Like how possible do you think that would be for us to create something like that, like a sort of a hub that could service to about 40 to 100
I just
different
did.
clients?
It's the Intervision Empowerment Center. And, all of those skills and services that you just mentioned, I either have or have access to through other individuals. And, where our location right now is across from AIC College, and we're beginning our operations out of a barbershop and salon, which is 1,500 square feet. But right next door was a cell phone store that went out of business. It was a Crooked store. I believe it's about 1,000 square feet. My plan is to put together a proposal to the real estate, our landlord, who owns that spot as well, and let him know that's exactly what we want to do with that space. That's what needs to be there, right? And that will be the place, the hub, the physical place. We already have the services ready to go, right? We already have the vision and the ideas. What we don't have is the physical place. And if I or we or the people that I'm working with can get that place, that would be one location that we could start from. Because like I said, there's nothing there, and it's right next door. And we could provide services just right in the middle of the community where the shootings is going on, where the drugs is going on. That's where we want it to be, right? And I think it would be a perfect location physically to do exactly what it is that you're talking about.
I'd love to be on that project. We should definitely talk afterwards.
Absolutely.
Hanif, I know you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, it's, this is a very, it's been said many times in this discussion, it's a very powerful and it's a very necessary discussion. One thing more than anything else that stands out to me about this is that, and not even just this, and I said this earlier, all the things we've talked about lead to a very common thread, even in this conversation. We have to be very purposeful in what we're doing. Daryl talks about, we're one big family, how we section things off. One thing about, I'm assuming that some of y'all families is like mine, we have people in my family that are good at certain things and people that are not good at certain other things. And one of the things as a family we have to look at and see is, well, who is good at handling these things in the political arena? Who is that point person that we can deal with? Who is that point person that knows how to find the money? Who is that point person that knows how to deal with the local government? Who's that point person that can deal with the state government? Who's that point person that can deal with the national government? We need to look at who these point people are and then look at what we can do to support them and realize that just because someone is sitting point because they have the skill set required, that doesn't diminish what you're doing to support the effort. Because I know some people that they feel like if they're not the star, if they're not the point person, then they're not, then they're not involved, or they feel like they have to be in front and they have to be important. And you got to realize one thing about being the point person in a discussion like this. That's not a job you really want, because you don't really understand what comes with that job. You don't understand the hell that you and your family now have to go through when you take that job. So people like kind of glamorize being upfront sometimes, and that leads to inaction. So we have to look in the family and say, well, who in the family can do the following things? Who is the best equipped for this job? And let's put this person up front for the point, and let's work together to make sure that this point person is supported as they're representing our interests. This is the same thing that we're talking about even when it comes to the political aspect of it. The finding the right representative isn't about finding the person, isn't always about finding the person who, is got the biggest mouth, as much as it is the person who has the best finesse in this area, and how do we support that person. So I think that when we talk about what we do and any of these solutions, it's all about when Dow talks about looking in the family, we got to be family enough to know that if you're not the one at point, it's okay. We're still working together. We're still doing all that we have to do to make sure that what our needs are being served, and that we're not looking to the same old that hasn't served us or helped us yet.
Yes.
And Joe, you got anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, two things actually. What Hanif said was right on point. For one, like in Islam, we always say whoever wants to be the king is not worthy to be the king, right? But as far as what he was saying with the actual how you put it together, when I worked for the housing authority, that was the new way that people were going. And so I had to put together programs that it doesn't make sense for us to all be doing the same thing. If this is what you do, now you can be doing what your specialty is while I'm doing what my specialty is. And that's actually what Daryl, myself, and actually another individual are doing currently. We're doing this. This is your specialty and this is your specialty. And so then we come together, we don't recreate the wheel. We sort of use each other's strengths, and it's not about the individual, it's about the collective, because everything that we're talking about today is going to benefit us as a people. And that's what we're looking for. And so people have to, as an individual, sort of look aside and say, okay, this is not about me. This is about us. And when we can sort of realize that and internalize that true spiritual journey, the brother Donnie was talking about spirituality. Spirituality is not a religion, it's sort of coming into contact with who you really are and your connection with the creator. When we're able to do that, we're able to remove the ego and then move as a collective. And that's when we will begin to show people the power that they fear. And they've done what they've done to us due to this fear of us. And until we figure out sort of who we truly are, we're going to continue to be a detriment to ourselves. But what we're talking about today is sort of going to put us on the right. If we can, even if people want this, and then my phone is going to cut off on me. See, I only have like 1 bar left. So if it cuts off, that's what happened. But I'll speak quickly. And so I'm in total agreement with Brother Donnie said, Dallas, Daryl, everyone knowing this. This is a beautiful conversation. I hope to be involved in many more. And let's figure out how we can connect and how we can move our people forward.
Right. So I just got one question for you, Dallas, and Donnie, and I know Joey, if you don't cut off on me. Do brothers and sisters that have been incarcerated, do they know that they still have a power to vote after they're out? Are they even talked about re-entry and what they can and cannot do, or what they are what they were supposed to do to make sure that they have the economic freedom, the voting rights, and able to move strategically back into society? Do you think that they teach that enough while you're in and going back out into population?
Well, I didn't know. I can only speak for myself. I didn't know that someone with a felony could even vote until we were at 1C3 meeting, and I was talking to Tracy, Whitfield, and Marlo, and I said, because what I want to do is I want to do a voter registration drive, because I didn't know what a felony that you could vote, and how that's a missing part of society and part of our power in the political system. If we can get thousands of people registered to vote, then they have no choice but to listen to us. They have no choice but to start sort of answering some questions that remain unanswered. Or like I said earlier, or we can make sure you're not here next time.
All right. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I
Keyshawn.
got you. I think Donnie's trying to speak, but he's muted.
Yeah.
I think I just unmuted him.
Okay, Donnie, you
Yeah,
up?
to answer your question, Keyshawn, is that no, they don't give you any information on voting or any of that stuff inside. They don't want you to vote, right? They definitely want to keep that away from you because our vote is the number one most powerful thing that we can do upon leaving incarceration. But 99% of us are so preoccupied with getting our lives back together. Voting is probably the last thing that's on our mind when it should be the first thing that's on our mind. And the thing about it is that we should have a welcoming home committee. You know, I mean, there are some people, you know, who have been to prison who, you know, they really have learned their lesson and they really are trying to turn their lives around. And a lot of people don't know, like the brother was saying, that you can vote with a felony. That's only in some states, mostly southern states like Florida, which I believe just reversed that. But up here on the East Coast, you can vote with a felony. And that's the type of information that we have to get right. Because if you've got 10,000 brothers getting out of prison or, you know, periodically, and 2 or 3,000 of them think that they can't vote or they've lost their right to vote erroneously, that's a problem, you know, and it's one that's easily corrected with an informational campaign.
Minnie, you want to follow up? Because I know you still got a lot too.
Well, I was just gonna say, all in all, we need a code, we need an agenda, and we need a system in that order. We need a code, we need an agenda, we need a system. If everybody's just off doing their own thing, there's no system to connect with people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, who have, you know, like minds and like interests. We got to have a code. We got to have a code. We got to have an agenda. We got to have a system. There's so much that we can do for ourselves. There's so many things. We can control more things than we can if we all move in one accord. Like, for example, we wanted to police ourselves. If I'm not mistaken, you can, if you get X amount of people to sign a petition in any one given area, you can say, I don't want the police here no more. You can take all the knuckleheads who just bored, who don't know what to do with themselves, and you can say, this is your job. This is what I want y'all to do. Y'all make sure the kids get to and from school. Y'all make sure that the husbands ain't beating on their wives and the wives ain't beating on their husbands, just to keep it fair. And that's what y'all do. They're the ones that are, you know, got the idle hands and the idle minds to start the trouble. But we need everybody. We need all that energy, period. Because the energy we have, it's just misguided. It's not properly channeled and directed. And if everybody within that area that agreed not to let the police that area unless they're called, which they shouldn't be, and you take $10 a house, $20 a house, or whatever, and you give these little knuckleheads some money so they can stop having a reason to wreak havoc through the neighborhoods, then that's how you kill two birds with one stone. Police ain't coming, and the troublemakers are now keeping trouble at bay, and they're responding to trouble. And it's stuff like that we can do on our own. We just so caught up in asking to be free. Like, we want freedom, we want justice, but we're just walking through the streets asking for it. And those are not things that you get by asking. The people who have control over whether or not we have them, they sure as hell didn't ask for it. We need a code, we need an agenda, we need a system. If we get those things and we have those things in order, we're gonna keep running around in circles.
Thank you. And Dallas, I got something for you. Just like Donnie said, you know, there should be a welcoming home committee. How important is it for young Black men and women that are coming out of prison to have like a mentor, someone like you, Donnie or Joe, that can tell them, you know, lead them on the right? How important is that connect that system, not just from people that have been post incarcerated, but also from family and also community?
That's one of the things I want to work on, like like what they call a reentry program, a recovery home, just to get, you know what I mean, people coming home have a safe place to go, you know, especially somebody that been locked up 10, 15 years. A lot of things changes, you know. Like when I got locked up, we have VCRs. I came home to see CDs and DVDs. You know what I mean? It was lost. So it's very important, like just having a safe place, come home, and education is the key, man. Like I said, the way I see myself, you know what I mean, today than before. That is about growth and how we see ourselves. Somebody had mentioned that. Just that's the most important thing. Have to come home to a safe place. Then from there, you just start from there. With the work, help an individual get their license. I would, just having like when you first come home, set up a program where you could live somewhere for 6 months free, so you could concentrate on the job, concentrating on building a resume. Think about somebody being locked up 10, 15 years. They don't know how to write a resume. They don't know how to sit down and do an interview. You know what I mean? That's hard. So they're gonna be scared to go and look for a job. They don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? So having an opportunity to come home safe, come home to a good environment. You don't have to worry about paying bills and none of that, and just focus on yourself. Focus on the new you, where we don't have to go back. Like what Joe was saying, we don't have to go back to the drug selling what was easy for us. You know what I mean? And I think that's the key. Like when things get hard to struggle, you come home to your baby mother, your wife or son. 2-3 months is cool. After that, they in your ear. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you had that low self-esteem about going to get a job because you haven't had a job. Like I said, the first job I got was in pre-release because they had it set up where I made it to pre-release where I could go and start working. That was my first job. I was 31 years old. You know what I mean? And that's my first job I had was from pre-release. And they had that contract with them. So after that, yeah, so that's very important. That's very important.
Man, thank you. I appreciate that. D, I'm gonna pass it back to you. I know you have something to say about what's happening coming up.
Yeah, I just want to remind people that next week, Sunday, September 20th, we'll have a conversation on who's black is the real black. Been a lot of conversations happening over who's black, who's not. As we talk about Afro Latinos, Caribbeans, Afro Brits, Afro French, a little bit of Afro everything. Everybody feels as if they have a right to insert themselves in the conversation regarding foundational Black Americans. So we're going to talk about that. I mean, who has the right to control who's black card and who can identify as black? Next week, we'll also talk about Minnie's girl, Jessica Krug, the associate professor at George Washington University, who admitted that she was, in fact, a white Jewish woman from Kansas City. So we'll have those types of conversations. That'll be coming up next Sunday. Make sure everybody tunes in at 3 o'clock. I just want to throw that out there real quick. And then Donnie and Dallas. Right now, if somebody came out of jail, if they came out of lockup, say Monday, Tuesday, where would you recommend they go first for assistance to make sure that they can stay, they can remain at home and, get their lives in order? What should be their first stop?
For me, it's depending on their needs, man. Like for me, ASS did a lot for me. You know what I mean? They opened up doors for me. They got me involved in the sheriff's department. Helped me with a job. They do the they got the program where they got the unemployment program, and they got people that actually hire people. Like they got a contract with a few jobs that they will help you get a job. And that's the key I tell brothers, man, start somewhere. You know what I mean? Just start somewhere and work from there. That's the most important thing. Like I said, like I started doing volunteer work because I didn't want no money in my pocket at the time. You know what I mean? So I started doing volunteer work. Then that opened up doors for me to get the job where I'm at right now, but that opened up for me to get other jobs. And I still volunteer for the sheriff department. And yeah. Depending on your needs, man, because today is a lot of resources out there, man. You got the New North Citizen Council, you got ASS, you got if that ain't can help you, I got temp agencies that will give people jobs. I'm out. I work as a recovery coach, so I'm out in the community a lot. So I got rapport with different temp agencies, different programs out there. So it depending on their needs.
Okay.
Now, Donnie, before you add on to that, I just want to go with Dallas and what you're saying with the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department does have programs that are very helpful for people that come out of prison.
Yeah, they work with people while they still. Depending on if you're in pre-release or Mill Street, they got a mentorship program where brothers get out, they able to leave the jail. I think it was on Mondays. They're able to leave the jail. We sit down and build with brothers. There's times I go inside the jail to brothers, get them prepared, let them see what they looking for. You know, I said the most important thing, man, is the housing. You know what I mean? Like you getting out of jail, you come home to the wrong environment. Man. You know what I mean? You get caught up again. So that's why I said like getting a recovery house, a reentry program, housing where brothers don't have to come back home to that type of environment because you'll get distracted. Or you're gonna get distracted. So if they have a safer, like I said, I had to change my sandbox. You know what I mean? My playground. You know what I mean? The people I associate with people like where I'm at today. That's why I surround myself around today. You know what I mean? I'm learning about stocks, so I call people about that real estate. Those are the people I surround myself around. And only way I could do that is to move myself out of certain environments so I don't get distracted. Because I'm like they say, the fear of the unknown. If I'm uncomfortable, right, and if I'm not used to being uncomfortable, I'm gonna go somewhere I'm comfortable at. But I had to continue to challenge myself to be comfortable. And things like that. So getting people out of that environment and putting them in a new environment, and it make it a lot easier where they don't get distracted. So yeah, like I said, it's matter of the individual, man. Like some people say this don't work, that don't work, but it worked for me. I know it worked for me,
Right.
and
that's what we asked for. If it works for you, then that works. So let me move over to Donnie and see what, because I know we're running out of time. We got 11 minutes left. So Donnie, for you, first stop, fresh off the block, where should people go first? Where would you recommend they go? I think you're muted. You're muted? Yeah.
Am I on?
You're on.
I would recommend Mass Rehab. I would go there first. That's where I would recommend because they're impartial. And the reason why I say that is because AISS, after Incarceration Services Program, I was around when that was being developed. They actually sent around pamphlets to ask certain inmates when we were incarcerated, what type of services would we like for them to have upon release from prison.
Donnie,
the problem with
stop you.
AISS
forget about that for a second. Just focus on where you think they need to go. Let's move forward.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, I would say that a lot of people are not going to go there. A lot of inmates are not going to go there because
if I came to you and said, "Look, man, I'm not trying to go back. Where should I go?"
Well, I would say come to Intervention Empowerment Center because it's not run by cops, and that's why a lot of brothers are not going to AISS because there are people walking around with badges, and when you've had their foot put on the back of your neck for 10, 15 years, the last thing you want to be around is a CO. And that's why they're not going there. And that's why they cannot be as effective as a place like
their
mine.
First stop should be Intervisions. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Okay. Because we're just like them.
Say it again, man.
Can I pick it back off that?
Slower so I can write it down. Intervention.
Let me. Can I pick it back on that for a minute?
Yeah.
This one thing I say about ASS, right? Those people, right? And this what inspired me a lot because majority of the people that work at ASS been in jail before, and that's what inspired me a lot. You know what I mean? If I had a caseworker that did 10 years working at ASS, and that's what inspired me. You know what I mean? And when I seen somebody that been where I've been at and got the job work for a sheriff department, that encouraged me that I could be better. You know what I mean? Like my sister was saying, right? We can't reach Oprah, we can't reach that, but there's people in our community that been successful. Let's talk about those people, because I'm not the only one. People, you got Hamza, you got people that's out there, Ronald, that been in the streets, that did time working in this type of field, that doing great stuff in the community. Those are people that we need to talk about. You know what I mean? That's why I always bring up Della Blake. You know, my uncle is a professor. He been in the streets, been locked up. You know what I mean? Those are the people that inspire me, encourage me to keep going because they've been in my shoes. They've been where I've been at. So when I seen people that working for the sheriff department going back inside the jails, helping other brothers, Buddy was one of the first guys that was working inside. I was in Lullah when Lullah first opened up in '92. Buddy was working there as a case, doing groups in there. You know what I mean? Knowing him, looking up to him back when I was a young dude in the streets, and seeing him, you know what I mean? And the same brothers that been where I'm at, that had opportunities to get jobs, to work. You know what I mean? That's inspired me. That encouraged me. And that's what I'm doing with brothers today. When I didn't even want to go inside Lolo. Me, where I came from, the streets, the block I come from, I didn't want to go inside Lolo. Cause like, man, people gonna be a snitch, this and that. But when I walked inside Lolo, there was brother like, yo, DA, they was like, yo, man, when I seen you, man, you make me want to change my life, man. Like, yo, for real, you know how inspired that was, the encouragement I could give others? That's what kept me going. That's what kept me going. Like, yo, this, you know what I mean? They might not get it today, but they might get it tomorrow. As long as I continue to be that leader, and a great leader, lead by example, just showing that I could do it. During rough times, I go find another job. I don't have to go pick up a package. You know what I mean? I go find another job, work on the weekends, doing something. You know what I mean? So that's what inspired me. So I'm giving that's what I'm doing to give to others. That's why I'm able, you know what I mean, and willing to go inside jails. And the only thing I say that what I'm trying to do now, I've been reaching out, so that we could start going to, because we only got the connection to Ludlow, but we need to start going into the prisons. And the prison system where brothers are locked up for 10, 15, 20 years, you know, and coming home. So you're like, we got to reach out to them too. You know what I mean? There's not people in county, or like within a last year, try to get them to Ludlow where they have where they could start building a relationship back into the community. You know what I mean? And that's the thing to do.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dallas. I appreciate it. Thank you, Donnie. Minnie, I know that you had a question. Did you get your information?
I just wanted to know the name of Donnie's program that he started. I know it's intervention or intervision, something empowerment. I just want to make sure everybody catch that.
Yeah, right. It's intervision. It's intervision. It's spelled INNERVIZIO.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the address and contact information?
That's 946 State Street. Email address is donnie2100@gmail.com.
All right. Thank you. And Dallas, I know you're a recovery coach. Now, can anybody acquire your services, or do they have to go through a certain agency?
Well, I work for an agency, but I do this off the clock, man. I got people calling me from jails if they able to, from Mill Street.
So
yeah, I do.
Is there a way? Is there an email address, a number, anything you it's up to you that you like to share?
Yeah, definitely. dclark360@gmail. And my number is 413-386-1418.
All right. Brothers,
yeah, I got business cards and everything. So yeah, I do this off the clock, you know, because it's all about helping brothers, helping our community, man.
All right. So at this point, I want to take a moment and just again thank everybody thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Donnie. I appreciate Joe Dumpson for coming on. These are conversations. They're not easy conversations. If you're watching from home, it made it look easy, but these are not easy conversations to have. And for these three brothers to open up and share a part of their lives with you, please respect and appreciate that. As we talk about Black folks not supporting Black folks, just remember we have three brothers who came on today on their own free time to share information with you. That's support. Sometimes we take this type of shit for granted, and we can't. I want to thank the panelists, for being here and doing what y'all do on Sundays. So with that being said, I'm going to start from the top. Terrence, Matt, closing thoughts. You have a closing thought?
Yeah, closing thought. I said in the comments, but I'll repeat it. The issue of incarceration is a systematic issue that needs to be handled systematically, from the pre-incarceration to incarceration to post-incarceration stages. And just echoing what everybody has been saying, we just gotta come together. Mobilize or organize, and to really start seeing some effective change.
All right. And next week when you come on, why don't you tell people we're going to take a few minutes so people can know about all the things that you're working on. I know you're working on about 5 or 6 different projects. Young brother getting it in. So next week, we're going to take a few minutes. We're just going to talk about that. Is that cool?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you. Vinny Jones, closing thought. Where are you? Here we go. Uh-oh. You're muted. Can we unmute it?
My bad, y'all. I'm just gonna keep repeating and reiterating this point. We need a code, we need an agenda, we need a system. There is nothing we can't do except for that which we think we can't do. So yeah, let's get organized.
All right, I'm with you on that. We got to code up. Everybody got to get on code. Let's see, Keyshawn, you up?
All right, I just want to say thank you to Dallas and Donnie and Joe for coming on, man. This is one of the most powerful conversations we've had. I mean, I think every week we get better and better, but this is going to be a hard one to top, man. And it's something that brothers and sisters need to hear. You know, it's sometimes we turn a blind eye to people that have been incarcerated or coming back out, like Dallas said. And Donnie said, it's like, oh, crap, they're out now. The APB is out that everybody avoid. But when brothers and sisters really want to get back to life, we can't be the ones turning a blind eye on ourselves. We got to make sure that we help to open the doors and don't close them like other people do to us. So we got to make sure that we do the right thing by the people that want to help, and we want to make sure that we change the systems that are holding each other down even more when they're trying to do right. So thank you guys for coming, and God bless y'all.
All right.
This is a needed conversation, and I think for more people than maybe get admit, it's a conversation that hits home. Many of us either have been or have a loved one that's been locked up and has come out. And I think more than anything else, there's a common thread in all of our discussions, and that I keep seeing more and more. And this conversation about this topic kind of highlights it even more. So, family, we got to be family. If we're gonna call each other family, let's be family. And family means that even when we don't necessarily like each other, we still come together and do what we got to do to make sure that everybody is taken care of. So let's not forget that includes our brothers and sisters that are coming out of jail. And let's not forget that includes our brothers and sisters, as Brother Donnie talked about, who may not necessarily be ready for that job yet, but we got to help them get ready when they get out. As our brother Dallas said, a lot of things changes when you've been locked up for a while. So when those changes are happening, let's be there to help them adapt to those changes. And let's make sure that we do everything in our power to make sure that we're all living the best that we can, regardless of whether you have a record or don't have a record. That shouldn't matter if we're really family.
All right, y'all. We want to thank everybody. I just want to shout out my man Ty Jackson, Springfield, Mass, from Ink Spot Printing. He got the real dope T-shirts. Make sure y'all support that brother. Reach out to him. He's on Facebook, Ty T.Y. Jackson. My man Kelly Dobbins and Rasan Jacobs with Level 5 Restaurant. If you're hungry and you happen to be in Springfield, make sure you go by there and get a meal. If you go by in the morning, I highly recommend the egg and cheese on a water roll with them Georgia hot beef sausages. Not pork, but the beef sausages. So make sure
there you fat ass.
And then I'm about to stick around. I enjoy sticking around. Minnie also has a business, so we can't talk about Black social progress without talking about economics. So, Minnie, you want to talk a little bit about your business real quick?
I have an online store where I sell jewelry. Jewelry for the culture. It's a lot of statement pieces. Some strong, some not as strong, and a lot of my pieces are made in Africa. So yeah, check me out at www.ladymo.
All right, y'all. So here we go. This is it. I want to thank everybody for coming in and joining this program. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. Don't forget, next Sunday we'll be back. We'll be talking about who's black is really black. Should be an engaging conversation. I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, we'll see y'all next Sunday. Much love, much peace, much respect. Y'all, this is on